So welcome everybody to this AIOTI Working Group Manufacturing presentation of their white paper on business impact of IoT in manufacturing industries. So without further ado, I would start with the agenda. So let's go here to see what we have today. So we have opening that will be now done by the chair of the manufacturing group, Alessandro Liani. And then we will go into the presentation of the white paper. First, overall introduction, then 3 presenters of the use cases. I think we will have 4 of them in total. Then recommendation and next steps, followed by the open question and answer session. And then we will have a wrap up of the webinar. So without any further ado, I hand over to Alessandro to give his welcome and then short introduction about the manufacturing group. Thank you.
Thank you, Damir. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you to be here. Next slide, please, Damir. Next one. Thank you. Like many of you know, the Manufacturing IoT Working Group is carrying out a number of activities this year with the aim of providing answers and views to the market, to our stakeholders. In particular, main achievements regard the manufacturing SRIA, the tracks, the IoT week of the 2021, and in February, the first workshop about the business impact of IoT in the manufacturing industry, and try to organizing the proposals for European funding on the manufacturing domain. Next, please, Damir. We have some priorities this year. One is a report about methodology, how to apply IoT on a good way on the manufacturing sector, and collect case studies and benefits of IoT and integration of IoT and other technologies in the manufacturing plants. And the workshop of today is one of the works connected to this point. And prepare a report about IoT, artificial intelligence, and edge computing can support the manufacturing sector in a sustainable way. Okay, next one. I would like to thanks very much Ulrich Loven by Siemens and Sergio Cusmeroli by Politecnico Milano for the good work made to prepare this first white paper, and I want also to thanks all the people that contribute to the white paper and permit also this event today. And now I want to give the floor to Ulrich, which will introduce us the work done and present us a series of interesting use cases present inside the white paper. Thank you. Ulrich, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Alessandro, for the introduction. And I want to give you first a short overview or motivation. What are we doing and why are we doing this? If we are looking in the context of industrial IoT, then there are for sure many discussions, many technical discussions where we discuss opportunities of new methodologies, of new technologies, and so on. But nevertheless, we also should consider the business perspective of that, what we are discussing here. Especially if you are looking to small or medium companies, they often ask the question, okay, and now please explain me what is the benefit for me if I use such new technologies. And this was our starting point, that we try to convince such companies that they really take use of these advantages, of these technological advantages which we have based on IoT. But then we see that in this case, it's not sufficient to only look to a single customer-provider relationship, because in this case, we have to consider an overall value network. There are additional partners which we have to consider, and the value for such small, and especially for such small and medium companies, and such companies from manufacturing industries, really depends on different roles in this value network. And for sure, this is only of interest if they have a convincing value proposition, but not only the end customer, also the other companies which are involved in this value network, they all need a convincing value proposition so that they take part in such a value network. And then we decided to discuss this topic based on a methodology which was proposed by the working group of Platform Industrie 4.0 in Germany. And we applied this methodology to work on examples or use cases in this IoT working group Smart Manufacturing. Next slide, please. So I want to explain a little bit more in detail what is our methodology which we applied. So the starting point is always a value network, and a value network which you see here on the right hand side, it's a graph where you have edges, and these edges are somehow the value propositions between the nodes, and the nodes are business roles. Let me try to explain it on the example on the right hand side. We have a supplier of a machine. This supplier of the machine delivers a machine to a system integrator. The system integrator integrates this machine in some manufacturing company so that they can use this machine in their production. A classical value chain which we find in manufacturing industries. And then some usage data of these machines is provided to an IoT platform, and this IoT platform has the capability that you can analyze with some software application this usage data, and based on such an analysis, a service provider can provide services to the manufacturing company, for instance, predictive maintenance or calibration services and so on. And this is somehow shown here in the value network, and this is our basic. This is one example of a value network, and you will see afterwards in the use cases other examples. And then it's important to understand that these business roles can be assumed by different companies, and if we choose the same color, for instance here the green color, then this means that the machine supplier and the service provider, they are the same company, the same legal entity. Or in this case, the provider of the app and the operator of the IoT platform, that they are belonging to the same entity. And this is important to afterwards discuss the business models. So this is our starting point. And now we want to discuss the business models of these companies. And we used a methodology which was introduced by St. Gallen. It's called the St. Gallen Business Model Navigator. You can describe business models in many different kinds. Very detailed, we really choose a very light version. And in this kind, a business model is characterized by answering 4 questions. And these 4 questions are illustrated by these 4 blue bubbles. And the first question is the who question. And you have to answer the question, who is your customer, or who is your target customer group? This is the first question which we have to clarify if you are talking about business models. The second question is the what question. What is your offering to the market, or your offering to the customer? The third question is that you have to discuss, how do you deliver this value proposition to the customer? typically you do not everything by yourself. You have partners in your value network. So in this how question, you explain using which partners do you use to provide your product to your customer. And last not least, you have to answer the question how to make money out of it. Do you sell, for instance, a product and get a one-time payment? Or do you have some service where you will be paid on subscription-based or maybe outcome-based or what else? So these are the different ways how you can create revenues, and this is the fourth question. Next slide, please. And now we apply this methodology to our value network. So for each company, which we find in this value network, so for each color, we have this business model. And now we ask the following question. If we take these examples or these use cases as basis, how does the business model change for the individual companies? And we use a color code that we say something there is no significant change, then we use this white bubble. Or there is a significant change, then we use this green bubble. This is something which is to a certain degree of a subjective assessment, but nevertheless, it's not so important to have a very, very clear discussion on is it now significant or not significant. More important is that you have that you think about what are the changes and that you are aware of these 4 dimensions in which you should discuss how business models change. And typically, we say that there is a business model innovation if there are at least 2 green bubbles in such a triangle. So in this example, there is no business model change for the system integrator. Also, the manufacturing company, there is no change in the business model, but for this purple company, this operator of the IoT platform, and also for the green company, we see because there are at least 2 different significant changes, we have a business model innovation for these 2 companies. So this is the basics. This is the underlying methodology which we applied. And now, please, next slide. We now used this methodology to prepare or to elaborate use cases. If you are looking to the document, then you can find in this document currently 12 use cases. We do not have the time to present all of them today, so we decided to present today 4 use cases. They show some aspects, but for sure there are other aspects, additional important aspects which you can find in other use cases. But nevertheless, let's start and present now these 4 use cases. The first 2 use cases are Siemens use cases, and I will present them now, and then I will hand over to Christina. So let's start with the first use case. The first use case is Siemens Industrial Edge. So in a first step, what is the portfolio element? What is Siemens offering here? And that you can see on the right-hand side. What they offer are, first of all, edge devices. So edge devices are computing devices which can be deployed and installed in the field. And these edge devices has capabilities so that you can run software applications on these devices. Typically, if you are familiar with automation, then you need very specific programming languages which you use for programming automation. But especially if you want to analyze data, if you want to use artificial intelligence and so on, then you need other computing capabilities close to the shop floor. And the solution for these are these edge devices. As I said, on these edge devices, you can deploy software applications. This is shown in the middle layer. So there are some edge applications. This is software which is developed with traditional software methodologies, and you can deploy it on the edge devices. But now what we also offer is a management system, an industrial edge management system. So you can manage all your edge devices, which are maybe deployed all over the world, and you can manage software applications, maybe your own software applications, maybe you buy these software applications from third party. So it's a kind of app store. And now you can manage these edge devices. You can deploy this software on the different edge devices. This is our portfolio element, Siemens Industrial Edge. And now I want to explain a use case for a company. This company is a medium-sized company which provide classical mechanical products. It's a provider of gears, and so you have many mechanical aspects, and you have some sensors on this gear so that you can get some information about temperature, vibration, and so on. And now this component supplier of this gear, he has the following interest, that he does not only want to sell his gear. For this gear, he typically gets a one-time payment. He also wants to offer services for his gear. A typical example for such a service is a calibration service, or it's a predictive maintenance use case or something like this. And what this supplier needs, he needs now some software application, and he will develop this software application, but this software application has to run somewhere. And now he has the challenge that it is not feasible from a technological point of view if he integrates additional computing capabilities within his device. Within his gearbox, for instance, then he is out of scope, and he cannot sell it any longer. So he is interested to sell the service and to use some edge device which is somewhere deployed in a machine or somewhere in the plant. And this is the use case where now Siemens Industrial Edge helps. Please go to the next slide. What we see here on the right-hand side is this typical value network. Let me start with the middle, where we have some typical machine supplier, and this machine is integrated in some plant of a manufacturing company. So this is similar to that what I introduced. And you see in the bottom this gearbox provider, this component supplier, who provides this component, and this component is integrated in some machine. And he has an interest now to sell some services. This is indicated by the software symbol in the bottom. And now he has two customers. One customer can be the machine supplier, so that he can offer these services to the machine supplier, but he could also offer these services to the manufacturing company, so this orange player on the right-hand side. This is his value proposition. And we think that there in the future are edge devices. Edge devices may be deployed in the machine, may be deployed by the machine supplier in the factory, and the component supplier now wants to deploy his software on the edge devices. And he has the challenge that typically there are many different edge device suppliers on the market. Each machine supplier uses other edge devices. Each system integrator uses other edge devices to be installed in a plant. And now he has the challenge that he wants to offer one software application which can be deployed on any edge. And now this is the value proposition of this edge management system, which is provided by Siemens. This edge management systems allows this company that they can provide an app. So this edge management system is open, that anybody can provide an app so that it can deploy it on any edge device. And this edge management system is also open, that any edge device supplier can onboard his edge devices to this management system. And then by this construction, now the component supplier can manage via this edge management system all his apps regardless where they are deployed on which edge device. Now let's look to the business models of these companies. Please go to the next slide. Let me start with the right example, and this the right-hand side. This is the edge management provider. This is really a new business model for Siemens. So we have new customers. Why do we have new customers? Only to give you one example here. Our customers are edge device supplier. And typically, these are competitors of Siemens. So in this case, we integrate in our portfolio competitors in our overall portfolio. And so this is the reason why the who bubble is green. Then for sure, which we have seen in the value network, all these other companies are somehow connected with this edge management provider. Each of these other companies uses services of these edge management providers. Therefore, the how bubble of all the other companies, they are also in green. And now this component supplier, he also changes the who. I explained it already. Typical today, he offers his offering to the machine supplier, but now also the manufacturing company is customer of him. So there is a significant change. The what is changing because he does not only offer these gearboxes, he also offers services. And these services are typically not one-time payment. They are subscription-based, maybe outcome-based, depends on the business model. So this is the first example, where you can find more details in the document. Please to the next slide. Now let me show you a second example, also a Siemens example, and this is an example of DokuHub. What is the challenge here? If you are looking to a typical plant, then in such a typical plant, you have a lot of equipment. And if you are looking, these are more than 10,000 equipments, and typically for each equipment, you have more than 20 documents per equipment. These documents change over the time, and therefore, if you have a typical maintenance task, for instance, then typically you need more than 80% of your effort to really find the needed document, which you need to do this maintenance task. So looking for actual information which is up to date, in such a case, it's very time consuming. And now comes in this offering of Siemens DokuHub. Siemens DokuHub allows you that you can assign metadata to the documents. And based on these documents, now you have, on these metadata, you have now more information about the status of this document. You can, for instance, integrate, is it still up to date? Is there a new version? Who is responsible for this? And so on. And the second value proposition is that the DokuHub really offers a possibility that you can exchange these documents on a legal basis, so that you are really sure that now you have an exchange of data where you comply to all legal constraints. These are the main features which DokuHub is providing. And I want to show you this on the next slide to go a little bit more into detail. So you see here the value network. Let me start with the value network. It's similar to the value network which we saw. So we have a component supplier. Typically, the component is delivered to a system integrator. The system integrator delivers this component or equipment into the plant. And then you have service provider, for instance, maintenance provider, which also provide their offerings to the plant operators. And all these companies, they provide information. For instance, the equipment supplier and the system integrator, they provide information or documents about their components. And also the maintenance provider, they provide documents, for instance, for the documentation of maintenance tasks. And some of them, especially the system integrator and the solution provider, they also use documents. So they are in both roles, documents provider and document user. And now they use DokuHub, and DokuHub is this basis where you can exchange data based on this legal framework. And now there are additional services which DokuHub offers, in the kind of that you can attach some metadata to the documents. For instance, you can classify the documents, you can export these documents, you can contextualize these documents, and much more. And based on these capabilities of DokuHub, now the exchange of documents is much easier. And if you are a document requester, then you can be sure that it is much easier to find the document. So the value proposition for the plant operator is that this 80% of looking for documentation is going down drastically. Now let's look to the next slide. What are the changes in the business model? Let's again start first on the right-hand side with DokuHub. It's a new offering, so it's clear that we have many of these green bubbles, but why are these changing? Why do we have new customers here? And it's a similar case as I explained it for Industrial Edge. Such an equipment could be a programmable logic controller, but not from Siemens, but from some of our competitors. So in this case, also, again, our competitors are our customers now as Siemens, and therefore we have a significant change for this WHO bubble, so that we have additional customers from a Siemens perspective. Again, because everybody is somewhere involved in this value network, we have this green of the value chain, or this how bubble. And now maybe I have to explain a little bit more. Why is it possible that you change your what and your value if you are a solution provider or system integrator or equipment provider? What you can do is that you can now offer to your customer some document-related services based on the features which you can use from Siemens DokuHub. So you, as a component supplier, you can additionally, for instance, offer an up-to-date service so that you deliver the right information or the right document to the right customer if there are some changes. This is an additional offering which you can offer based on this DokuHub, and therefore, for instance, the what and the value of such an equipment provider will change. Or to give you another example, there could be complete new customers, somebody who analyzes the documentation of some plant operator, and based on the services of DokuHub, he can do this and maybe use some AI algorithms and help to the customer to better classify or to better structure or to find inconsistency or what else in the documents. So you see, not only the workflow itself is improved, there are additional services which can also be offered by third company parties on top of the Siemens DokuHub. This is the overall idea of this topic of Siemens DokuHub. Now I want to hand over to the next example to Christina.
Thank you. So here I'm going to present a Hitachi Maintenance Assistant and Predictive Maintenance solution. The need for this solution comes because new technologies in industries are definitely improving efficiency, but we see that are also creating challenges, especially in maintenance workers. Maintenance workers need to continuously learn and adapt to a greater variety of machines, and also is increasing the complexity of their activities, as well as a knowledge transfer that will become increasingly more challenging and important with the aging society. So what we present here is a solution for training and assisting maintenance workers by implementing an AIoT-based system, which processes 4M data, that is a human, machine, material, and method. The system tracks maintenance activity of the assets and starts a visually guided maintenance support using AR applications, using augmented reality. So the solution is also going to digitalize the machine maintenance steps. The augmented reality application integrates the capabilities to check the machine and the material. So it's going to show the right process to the right material and make sure that tools and spare parts are verified before replacement. Also going to display the machine status such as temperature and pressure, and validate and record the worker's actions, as well as displaying the step-by-step information in order to perform correctly the maintenance task. So in parallel, some wearable sensors in the worker are going to confirm if the execution of those tasks that are displayed are performed correctly. And that is done by using Hitachi's AI-based human activity recognition technology. And the system guides the worker while collecting a digital maintenance log, so the tracking of all those activities and checked the ones that has been executed. And that is also because there is an AIoT device with on-edge artificial intelligence, is going to process the asset and machine sensor data and execute that human activity recognition synchronized with the IoT-based augmented reality applications and send the data to the cloud in order to have additional functions. So after each intervention, the solution is going to transmit that data, the digital maintenance log, with all the tasks executed, and that is going to allow for detailed monitoring of the maintenance intervention and enables additional solutions such as predictive maintenance, data analytics, KPI monitoring, and maintenance optimization. So in the next slide, we are going to see a demonstration video that was recorded during the first pack trade fair. And here we see first how this machine is recognized. We start logging, and on the right bottom corner, we already start seeing the indications that are marked as executed when the sensor detects that they have been performed. The worker has the option of replaying the steps if they are not clear. The material is checked before replacement to make sure that it's correct. And all this time, we are recording the tasks that have been executed. Also, the conditions of the machine while executing those tasks. Okay, so I believe that's the end of the video, so we can go to the next one. Thank you. So the value network, in the value chain that provides added value IoT services, to expand Hitachi's industrial products business and integrate these services into the Industrial IoT platform as part of Hitachi's digital transformation business. This maintenance and repair solution comprises the data collection, the data management, data processing, and includes the functions at the perception layer that are of informing the worker about the maintenance task to follow, and the functions at the application layer of performing predictive maintenance, providing the data analysis and maintenance task optimization results. So in the value network, the plant operator is going to receive the additional value proposition of reducing his expenditure for the maintenance of the machines and thus operating more profitably also. In the next slide, we are going to see the business model innovation. And here, for each of the actors involved in the value chain, we see that Hitachi is going to be the machine supplier, and from that side may reduce the maintenance and warranty cost. When the maintenance and repair solution is integrated as part of the machine delivery value chain, by leveraging Hitachi IT business, so the part of a system integrator, provider, and service provider, Hitachi may also provide added value services to their customers, such as predictive maintenance and optimized scheduling service, also increasing its revenue streams. The functions of machine supplier, system integrator, and service provider, they are performed by different entities within Hitachi, but it is that combination of the IT and the OT capabilities that is going to allow for having those maximization of capabilities in all the dimensions that we see. And then for the manufacturing company, the solution targets the maintenance team. It answers the question of who should perform the maintenance task, when it has to be done, and how maintenance needs to be delivered. It also changes the current maintenance operation to a more collaborative scheme in which maintenance data is shared to the machine supplier, for the supplier to be able to provide additional value propositions, such as that predictive maintenance that we mentioned. And that is the summary of the business model and the end of the use case introduction. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. This is Sergio Gusmaroli, Politecnico di Milano. I'm research coordinator there, and I'm presenting you one industrial case, which has been inspired by the Boost 4.0 innovation action in Horizon 2020. This case, in fact, comes from big data for manufacturing lighthouse project, which is Boost 4.0, and so comes from the BDVA, the Big Data Value Association, and in particular the Smart Manufacturing Industry Group I'm co-chairing, and this was the factory where the proposal has been developed and built. What I wish to tell you is that we have the working group 11. In IoT, we have the working group 11 in smart manufacturing, and inspired by this case, inspired by the case of Hitachi, inspired by the cases produced by Ulrich, I believe we could really provide the business motivation for creating proposals in the next actions which are regarding this aspect of business model innovation for manufacturing. And in particular, I suggest here that in the next Made in Europe 23 program, we will have a topic which is called manufacturing as a service. And manufacturing as a service is a business model innovation. And the business model navigator and the network analysis that we are doing in these cases are fundamental elements in order to provide cases for manufacturing as a service. So the first appointment that may be in the working group 11, and I will be in contact with Alessandro and Damir, of course, for that, is manufacturing as a service, and in particular, which is the business model innovation related to this. The second appointment is in Digital Europe, and in Digital Europe, you know, we have the call data spaces for manufacturing. And again, the call data spaces of manufacturing, we should be launched in October, November, as one scenario, which is a scenario which is quite similar to this scenario that I'm going to present now, or to the scenario of predictive maintenance presented by my colleague in Hitachi or by Ulrich before. And so dynamic industrial asset management. And this is a very basic point where our community in working group 11 could really be very proactive in the preparation of a proposal regarding dynamic asset management. In this case, next slide, please. We have a typical example of multi-stakeholder value network. And you see here that we have four main stakeholders, four main actors in this value chain. We have the machine manufacturer. In this case, it is called Prima Industrie. Prima Industrie, they provide basically several machinery. In this case, a laser welding machine, and they provide this laser welding machine to a car manufacturer. And this is the second stakeholder of this value chain. In this case, it is Fiat, and the plant which is involved in Fiat is the Melfi plant, which is located in southern Italy. There are other two stakeholders in this value network. On the one side, the Industrial IoT solution platform provider, and in this case, it is Siemens, and they provide basically the MindSphere Industrial IoT environment in order to support edge to cloud continuum in this case. And we have an innovative SME, which thanks to advanced AI algorithms, machine learning, and other techniques, is able to provide advanced solutions, especially in the domain of predictive maintenance, but not just to that. What is the main characteristic of this use case? It is that the relationship between Prima, that is the supplier of the machine, and Fiat, the car manufacturer, is an N-to-M relationship. And so it is the interest of Prima, for instance, to implement fleet management algorithm, spare parts management algorithm, to perform new product development, to select new components for their machines, which will improve maybe the sustainability, the environmental sustainability, the energy consumption of the laser engine, or also the circularity. And so that's why Prima is needing the data which are in the machine installed in Fiat, but it is also needing the data of similar machines which are installed in other Fiat plants or in other customers. In the same domain, we could imagine Daimler or BMW or Volkswagen or whatever. On the other side, we have Fiat, and Fiat does not just have Prima machines in their plant, in their Melfi plant. They have also machinery, robots, AGVs, conveyors, other devices which are coming from different other suppliers. And so when they are going, for instance, to implement a maintenance intervention, this needs to be harmonized and this needs to be agreed with all the providers, all the suppliers which are in the Melfi plant. That's why I'm saying that this is an end-to-end relationship, in the sense that Prima doesn't have just Fiat as customer, and Fiat doesn't have just Prima as supplier. And this is very important in order to build and model the value network. Another interesting aspect is Siemens MindSphere and the Industrial IoT platform and the relationship with the innovation SME. And so all the major players in this domain, they are now start understanding the value of open innovation. That is to open up the innovation to external parties. And in this case, this very innovative SME is one example of that. And on the one side, in this case of Boost, Siemens MindSphere was also able to get the data from the physical world, from the physical machines, but not just from Siemens machines, Siemens PLCs, but also from other machines. And in this sense, we use the open standards like OPC UA, RAMI Asset Administration Shell, and we are also using open source industrial IoT brokers like the Orion Contest Broker from Firewall. And so it was very interesting how a leader in industrial IoT in this new business model could open up collaborations with open source providers like firewalls and with very innovative SMEs like the one which are in this picture, at the center of this picture, and which are using the MindSap facility from Siemens. Next slide. In the next slide, we could recognize the business model innovation, and it is very important to say that we need negotiation in the business model innovation. So as long as you have multi-stakeholder business models, we need to negotiate their business model. So it is not that each of the triangle here could behave independently and irrespective from the others. So they need to be really interconnected, and the business models needs to be negotiated. For instance, the business model between Fiat and Prima needs to be agreed, because it is quite clear that Prima is providing machines also to competitors of Fiat, and it is quite obvious that Fiat is using also machineries which are coming from competitors of Prima. This means that the business model should be negotiated, should be integrated between the two. And Fiat basically is not changing the what because they are going to sell cars in the same, but they are going to change the revenue mechanism and the value chain. But above all, it is Prima who is going to change the major part of their business models, thanks to servitization. And this is something that it must be very well evaluated by a business model analysis like the business model navigator from St. Gallen, because servitization, the risk of servitization is to cannibalize the business. And so Prima, who is selling their machines to the customers, now if they want to pass to a service to a service provision, which means that they are going to keep the ownership of the machines, and the machines are rented to Fiat and not sold to Fiat. In order to do that, Prima has really to change the what, the value, and the how of their value proposition. And so it is a real drastic, disruptive innovation from Prima, the adoption of this scenario. And this needs to be very well modeled, and the business model navigator is a good example where this can be done. Again, Siemens MindSphere and the SME need to establish some sort of a symbiosis of collaboration, in the sense that on the one side, Siemens MindSphere is a leader, worldwide leader in industrial IoT platforms, but they could understand the value and the added value coming from SMEs, coming from very innovative SMEs. And these very innovative SMEs, of course, could be also startups. This means that you see all the circles in the SME are green, in the sense that in this respect, the business model, the who, the what, the value, and the how of the SMEs must be developed, most of the cases from scratch. And in this case, in close collaboration with Siemens MindSphere. And so the SME will not be able to reach the market alone, to reach a huge amount of manufacturers in order to provide their services. And this needs to be done by Siemens, who has a very, very large market. And on the other side, the SME is providing Siemens MindSphere with advanced techniques, advanced in this case artificial intelligence techniques, which are usually not included as the default Siemens MindSphere platform, but they are additional components like in MindSap applications. And this is more or less what I have to say with respect to this industrial case. So summarizing, one, this industrial case could be very well exploited inside the Working Group 11 of IoT, also in the light of the new Digital Europe and Horizon Europe programs. Second, manufacturing as a service and servitization is a multi-stakeholder activity, a new business model, and the business model needs to be carefully designed and agreed among all the stakeholders. And third, there is a symbiotic advantage for everybody participating in this network, but we need to negotiate, we need to harmonize the business models, because nobody in this multi-stakeholder business model innovation cannot play alone, but they could play in synergy and in collaboration. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Sergio. So now we can basically open the floor for any question or comments. You can either raise your hand or you can put it in chat, whatever you find it's, let's say, works best for you. But before that, maybe let's do recommendations and next steps. So Ulrich, maybe you can do that, and then we open the floor for the questions and comments.
Yes, thank you. Let's summarize a little bit what we have seen or what we have learned when collecting these use cases together. As I said, there are additional use cases. You find in total 12 use cases in the paper. And now let me summarize a little bit the observations which we had. What is the impact of IoT in the value networks of manufacturing industries? And there are, from a top-level point of view, 3 different possibilities how IoT is influencing the business models of the companies involved. The first one is that there are companies which use these technical capabilities of IoT to establish themselves in the value network as a new player. So they are now in the value network, but in the past they did not work in this role in the value network. And there we have seen mainly two examples. One example, which is somebody who operates such a platform. If you look to the different examples which we presented, maybe you have seen that there was this purple player, and this purple player is somebody who operates an IoT platform. So the business purpose of such a company is to operate an IoT platform. There are some which are really new in the market, as we have seen in the Siemens examples. There are some which do not really innovate their business model, as we have seen in the example from Hitachi. But this is one observation, that we have these IoT platform operators in the value chain. Then there is another possibility where we have companies new in the value chain, which in the past did not participate. One example was shown by Sergio, that was this innovative red company. And there are additional examples in the other use cases. Typically, these are sensor suppliers or device suppliers, and as a core value proposition, they provide this device, and this is somehow supplemented with additional services which they offer to the market. Typically, these sensors or these devices are connected to a cloud, and they use these cloud capabilities to offer then additional services. This is the first kind of companies which we see. Then we see companies which were already in the value network, and they are still in the value network, but they innovate their own business model. Typical examples which we saw, these were the green companies, the machine supplier. And I think in each of these examples which we presented, these machine suppliers, they all innovated their business model. So typically a new value proposition and a new revenue mechanism, sometimes also additional customers. And then there is a third kind of companies which we observed, which do not innovate their business model. They have the same customers, the same value proposition, often also the same revenue mechanisms, and this was typically the orange companies which we had in our value networks. They are selling, again, like Fiat, they are selling cars to their customers, but they use the opportunities which are offered by the purple and the green companies to optimize their internal value creation processes. So these are three different ways how you can use IoT, and there is no good or bad. It's your decision whether you say, okay, I will act as somebody who really establishes as a new company in the value network, or if you say, no, I want to innovate my business model in the value network of manufacturing industries, or if you say, no, I want to use the capabilities to optimize my internal processes. Next slide, please. Maybe one additional remark to this topic of platform, because this topic is discussed a lot in the overall community. Maybe this somehow helps to give a little bit more guidance. What we have seen, and now we are looking to this topic of platform more from a business perspective. And we have seen two different applications of these IoT platforms. In the first case, we have somebody who uses this technical platform and earns money by operating this platform. These are the purple players, which we already discussed in the previous slide. So they really do a platform business in the sense that they are bringing together different parties or different sides of the market, and so they act as these platform companies. And there are others which use a technical platform, and there are no real differences between the platform, the technical platform in the first and in the second case, but they do not offer the platform to the market. They offer services on top of this platform to the market. So this platform is not open to others. They only use it for their own purpose. And maybe this somehow helps that in a discussion we distinguish between platforms with the purpose to make money out of the operation of the platform, or using platforms as basis to offer additional services on top of an own platform. Next slide, please. Now, what is in for a typical manufacturing company? I think the most important thing is the following, that each and every manufacturing company, and if we are looking to the value networks, the green companies and also the orange companies, they are all manufacturing companies. They should consider what is my current position in such a value network and what could be my future position, or what should I intend to assume in the future. This is something which they should discuss. And then they can take these examples for inspiration, but nevertheless, they must take their own strategic decision. This is their own responsibility. We can only provide some guidance or some inspiration. And what we want to emphasize, do not do this alone. Also, Sergio already stressed this topic of open innovation. Get in touch with other companies. Try to find communities where you can discuss this with your peers, with your competitors, with your suppliers, with your customers. And you can use, for instance, this IoT working group to really discuss these things so that you can discover for your own purpose new business opportunities. Finally, we plan to update this white paper. We want to add further examples, so please feel free, contact us, and then we can integrate additional examples into this white paper. If you want to have more information, please, next slide. We recommend some links here, which are used in our documentation and our elaboration, so you can find additional information on these references. Next slide, please. And now I think we can switch over to questions and so on. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ulrich. Thank you to the all presenters. Now the floor is open. If you have any question or comment, please, again, just raise your hand or put in chat whatever you find that works better for you. I see Nikos has a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello, everybody. I'm Nikos Giannakakos from Unisystems. It was really interesting, everything that we have seen here from the presenters, from the use cases. What we see more and more, and from other cases of use of AIoT, is that a very big and important thing is how do we enable the ecosystem. And the ecosystem, it has to do with all what you mentioned about which players is becoming part of the value chain, how changes the business model, and all that it evolves in the space of open data marketplace. So one thing that I clearly see is how AIoT can create a technological grid as a facilitator for new business model. Because when innovating, you don't know a priori. If you think strategically how you want to place or upgrade a new business model, it's sure that you are seeing ahead, but not very innovative. The thing is how you discover what you don't know that you don't know. To give an example, Tesla became as a car EV charging manufacturer. And then all this, it has been expanding and involved. to car insurance, to sensory data about maps, to best routing, and it goes on and on and on. I don't know if it has that plan ahead or it came as it was evolving. So how we create a technological grid able for everyone to find a business role and a business model, able to share the type of data in depth and breadth that they want to those that they want in such a manner as to discover a new business model, cooperative or other business model, because there are business models coming from society. There are business models coming out of ESG initiatives and so forth. I think it's of crucial importance.
Thank you, Nikos. Just to mention, when you said about marketplaces, we basically did couple of iterations of our basically marketplace paper related to IoT and in particular to energy sector, which went beyond just energy as such, because it included also blockchain and many other things, climate change in general and so on. So we already kind of have a bit of, let's say, thinking put into that, okay, from one specific, let's say, perspective. Now we are talking about from the manufacturing perspective. So I think we are kind of on, so to say, on the way of dealing with it. But maybe Ulrich and other colleagues who presented want to comment on this, what Nikos mentioned, which I think is relevant.
Yes, I think it's really relevant, and I do not have an answer to the overall question. But I think what we really should have are good examples where we explain these, let me say, data marketplaces. If I am right, in our use cases currently, we do not really have a, let me say, real data marketplace use case. Some of them are a little bit in this direction, but I think we should think about how to integrate such use cases into such a list of use cases, because this could help somehow to get a better common understanding and to bring forward this overall topic of data marketplaces, data spaces, however you call it.
Thank you. So Sergio or Christina, do you want to comment on?
Just a brief comment. So I fully agree with what Nikos said. And so the need to have ecosystems, because platform economy is something very, very powerful, but we need an ecosystem. And in my opinion, an initiative like ours here of our white paper is really aiming at forming an ecosystem. In my opinion, the basic answer that we should give is where is the business benefit? And where are the best practices? Where are the success stories of this new business model innovation? And this is the right way, in my opinion. So collecting these successful business cases in a white paper is a good way to have ecosystems formed. And then I insist on one thing. It is also a matter of negotiation. It is also a matter of collaboration. And so the business model of a new platform doesn't come just at design time. And so we really need to collaborate. We really need to experience. We really need to share knowledge, to share data, to share information, to create these data spaces. Of course, the technology should accompany us in order to protect the ownership, the data sovereignty, the confidentiality of our data, in order to guarantee that we give access just to those actors in the value networks that we want to give access to. And this is the way. In my opinion, maybe in other communities, they start from the methodological part, from the design principles, in a very top-down way. In this community, we are starting bottom-up, And starting from the cases is maybe very, very complementary to what the others are doing, and we could really provide them with value. And again, in my opinion, the next opportunity for us is data spaces for manufacturing, and data spaces for manufacturing digital Europe is something that our community could really play a very relevant role in the call.
Thank you, Sergio. I think you made a couple of very good points, especially what I think it's important to mention is collaboration. There are sometimes some, let's say, tendencies usually because of funding on, I would say, a bit of competition, because of course funds and budgets are limited. In that sense, it is understandable. But if you see the overall benefit and how actually, like you said, ecosystem and platforms work, it's very difficult that, especially in Europe, it can work only if you have just very strict or let's say strong competition element and not actually also quite a lot of collaboration. And then, of course, what you said for the Digital Euro program and data spaces, I think this is something that we were engaging before. We will be engaged through some of our members in some of those projects as well in other aspects, but I think that this is a good point for the future. I see that Alessandro also raised hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, I represent a manufacturer, therefore I give you only an opinion on the side of the SMEs. Okay, so the first point, from my point of view, is that SMEs has a great need for big data because they are small, and any artificial intelligence model need large data sets that obviously are not available into the SMEs. This means that this is a significant problem for the small players, and the data sharing is a solution. But nobody is willing to share data for free. So it is necessary to provide the right remuneration, because if you are an entrepreneur, obviously you invest on data collection, and therefore you don't share the data for free. So the balancing of these 2 points is a critical point, because if you don't take into consideration the real business and you don't take into consideration that companies spend a lot of money to collect data, so they don't give away the data without a return, any solution is very, very theoretical. I have seen large companies like Siemens, for example, or Fiat, but let's consider that, for example, textile and clothing is a sector where companies have an average dimension of 10 people. And therefore, the solutions which are fitting for these large companies, like the automotive, the aerospace, are not fitting for other sectors like our own. So the sharing of the data is a critical point to solve. Another point is related to sustainability and traceability, because the data sharing is a critical solution to trace the data and to provide the support to demonstrate the sustainability, which now is a hot topic for any sector. Finally, I have seen that you are making a mention to blockchain. Blockchain can be a solution to this, but it's not true that blockchain is very, very energy consuming, because consider that mining of the blocks is consuming, but using, for example, for traceability is for a transaction consuming 1/20 of a Google search, to give you a hint of what's consumed. So please, when you are talking about blockchain, do not say that it is an energy consuming, because this is not fully true. Cryptocurrency is one sector, which is or NFTs, they are consuming, but the other application of blockchain cannot be seen as something which is not sustainable, because that's not true.
Yeah. Thank you for this. Actually, I don't know where did you get that we say this, because we didn't. I only mentioned that blockchain was involved as one of the technologies used in energy data marketplaces. We have our distributed ledger technologies group, which had also similar webinar last week. And actually they are very intensely working with European Commission, in ADBA, and other partners exactly to prove your point, so that this is not energy efficient, and we even have some test beds to prove actually the opposite. So thank you for that point, and we take this very seriously. Also working with our Digital for Green group to also show what are the possible methodologies to actually measure reduction of the carbon footprint, especially by using IoT and edge technologies. So I would say that we are now really having very interesting mix of, let's say, topics and areas that are this or that way linked, and we will have to see, I think, between our groups how to kind of coordinate that work, that we actually present in a more, I would say, structured way all of those points, because you see it's very easy to let's say go into one point and then completely forget that there are other actually areas that are contributing in a different way. Gustavo, please go ahead.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. So first of all, thank you very much for all the presentations. I think this is a very interesting topic. I was wondering if when you analyze the modifications in the business models and the innovation, you mentioned that there was some impact on the value chains. I don't know if you were able to analyze if there was an improvement, for example, in the circularity of the value chain, which is an emerging topic, or maybe if there is any organizational or operational barriers to the adoption of these technologies on top of the analysis of the business model.
Thank you, Gustavo. That's a very good question. Ulrich, would you like to start and then maybe go further?
I think we did not analyze this in detail. When we are looking to the value chains and asking, did they change? Then typically we said there is an additional partner, or there are less partner, or something like this. But what you just said is going much more into detail, and we did not analyze this, as far as I remember, in the examples which we considered.
Sergio, do you want to complement?
No, I think Gustavo is right. And this white paper is just a starting point, and we could really make it evolve towards different subjects, different arguments like circularity, sustainability, resilience, and so this white paper is, first of all, is an open community, and on the other side is the starting point, and then we could make it evolve towards the most interesting subjects. I wish also to have a comment about the SMEs and what Alessandro Canepa said before. I think Alessandro Canepa is right. Many of the examples that we gave today were driven by large companies. However, in this environment, the role of SMEs was also emphasized. And so at the moment, it is not really, it is a bit ancillary, if you want, with respect to the large companies, but they have a very, very important role and very important relevance in the development of the business models. If we want to do something which is exclusivity of SMEs, maybe we should address the digital innovation hubs, the European digital innovation hubs movement. And so, and this could be an interesting evolution of this white paper. And so how is the role of digital innovation hub and European digital innovation hubs in this business model transformation driven by industrial IoT? This could be a good evolution, a good subject also to find examples and the cases with the involvement of digital innovation hubs and SMEs networks.
Thank you, Sergio. I think this is a very good point. Also to maybe remind participants that we are co-leading with the 6G Industry Association one network of digital innovation hubs, which is called SCODICnet, so Smart Connectivity Digital Innovation Hub Network. And actually, we have, let's say, I would say, internal capability of raising this issue with that network, which is now over 90, as far as I heard yesterday on their monthly call, over 90 participants who are now basically getting funding from the Digital Euro program. So they are kind of accelerating their activities, and I think that basically timing is actually right to do this. We heard also other points that we could possibly raise. I think this is good feedback for our manufacturing group to take back, also maybe with your help. So whoever wants, to kind of be involved, this is not like completely, let's say, like Sergio mentioned, it's an open community. It's not like it's closed only and exclusively to AIOTI members. Whoever has, let's say, something to say or wants to contribute, it's welcome, because I think we really need to kind of make the good point and then actually elaborate this, share these examples, especially with the policymakers, because they need to see also how things are developing before they are making some moves. That goes also back to comment of Alessandro about the balance with the data sharing. Now we know that we have, Data Governance Act, Data Act now in preparation. So there is a lot of, actually very hard regulation on the table, so to say, that is dealing actually directly with those topics, and in which we are also kind of involved and try to exactly strike this balance as much as it is sometimes actually hard. Any last question or comments before we maybe hand over to Alessandro to wrap up? Okay, then Alessandro, maybe you can just wrap up and then we give a bit of time to people to in the afternoon.
Thank you very much to the speakers, to Cristina, to Sergio, to Ulrich for the elements it's today. Thank you for the questions, and I hope there will be in the next future the possibility to go in depth on these topics, and thank you again for the participation to this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Alessandro. Thank you to all presenters as well, and also to all of you who participated and asked questions and make comments. Just to say that on our website we will make the presentation available, so it's like free. We will also make available the recording of the webinar for the ones who were not able to participate. And with this, I would like to thank you again and close the webinar and wish you a nice afternoon. Thank you for your contributions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.